We got him. We got Bin Laden or some shit. Dressed, what was the tweet? He's been in Brooklyn for 4 hours. He's already dressed head to toe in Carhartt that's never seen a day's work. He's huge, man. Look at him. Yeah, he's like 6'4". No wonder he became dictator. They have to bring his head down so his head doesn't get cut off by the chopper. For narco-terrorism, gun trafficking, and cruelty to the Venezuelan people, we, the court, sentence you to 6,700 years. 6,700 years! Take these shirts off and say it again! Can we get that in Spanish? Hold on, 1 second. Translate. 6,700 años! Quítate estas cadenas y repítelo!
6,700 años? Quítate estas cadenas y repítelo.
My delivery was better. Sorry. What is this referring to, chat? You don't know?
This court, you are hereby sentenced to 6,700 years in federal prison.
6,700 years? Take these straps off and say it again!
For all federal offenses listed, this court sentences you to 6,200 years in federal prison.
6,200 years? Take these chains off and say it again!
For all charges brought before this court, you are hereby sentenced to 7,600 years in federal prison.
7,600 years! Remove these straps and say it again!
For all federal crimes presented to this court, you are sentenced to 7,100 years in federal prison.
The comedic element is enhanced greatly through the knowledge that for like at least 40% of the American electorate, like you could show them these videos and they would think it's real. You could say like this is a Tren de Aragua enforcer captured after the fall of Maduro's regime, and they would believe it. They think this is what the court is like. Like this is what the criminal element is like. Oh, these videos are why a stick of RAM is like $800 now. Worth it. Oh my god, sorry. Okay, so yeah, anyway, Maduro showed up in court. He showed up in court, he pled not guilty, God bless him. Maduro repeatedly asserts he is still leader of Venezuela. He says, I am a decent man, the president of my country. Man, I wish we had video. Man's just aura farming. He's a big guy, you know? That's why they had to sentence him to 6,700 years. Yeah, here's him and his wife. Jesus Christ, look at that. He's massive, man. Are they giving him a lawyer? Yeah, of course. Everyone's entitled to a lawyer. Can't we just kill him? He's not going to get a fair trial. He might. Yeah, look, again, totally, like, completely unprecedented situation here, you know? It's not impossible he gets off. Like, it's not likely, but it's not impossible. Apparently, he's friends with the judge. Judge Hellerstein, who is like 90 years old, by the way, greeted Maduro, good morning. Maduro gave him a nod and a wave in return. Hola. So they're getting along. They're fast friends. Unprecedented, the U.S. has been coupping Latin America for ages. Yeah, but usually when we do coups in Latin America, we just let the leaders we don't like rot in prison in their country, you know? And at least, and we can read up on this, man, but in Panama, right, when we intervened in Panama, which was a lot more justified than what's happening right now in Venezuela. Still bad, but more justified than what's happening right now in Venezuela. Like, there were much more direct crimes that we in U.S. court could hold him to, you know? But with Maduro, again, like conspiracy, narco trafficking, like just, I don't know. Keep in mind the DOJ has lost like basically every single lawsuit that it's brought, or not lawsuit, every court case it's brought, every indictment. It's just over and over and over and over again, they lose. It failed with James Comey. It failed with Letitia James. And those were two pretty big ones, pretty high profile ones. We know that Trump was mad that those were not proceeding at a sufficient pace. So we'll see what happens when he gets out. He goes back to Venezuela and kills everyone. Well, no, if he gets out, then, okay, honestly, if he got out and then just went back to Venezuela and then went back to being the dictator, that would be the most classically, like, Latin America, junta, you know, kind of communist, but not really leader thing to do. That would be so fitting. That would be perfect. That would be the Chavinista. That'd be like the Castro. That's just like the confidence, you know? That's what I think of when I think of Latin American dictators. I think confidence, okay? He talks about how nice visiting America was. Yeah, he talks about getting an all-expense-paid vacation to America, behest of, or courtesy of President Trump. That would be pretty funny. Yeah. I never thought I'd get to see America. He showed me Brooklyn. He took me to New York. I had a hot dog. I had ice cream. Maybe he can get obsessed with ice cream like Castro, you know? He gets really into Carhartt. I mean, hey, so far so good on that one. Have you seen him getting arrested? I don't think it's actually Carhartt, but it sure looks like it. Maduro's attorney raises questions about the legality of the arrest. Attorney Barry J. Pullock. We know anything about this guy? Oh, a public defender he is not. Who is Nicolas Maduro's lawyer? No, Barry Pullock and his famous wins, including Julian Assange's release. Yeah. I didn't know who his lawyer was. Okay, all right. Now we've got a case building here. Maduro's already on his way home. This is what I mean, man. In this weird, like, inconsistency. Trump violates the law, the Constitution, every single day, right? Insanely illegal shit every day. But somehow, like, we can do a regime change abroad, which the whole world condemns. And then, still, we can't really do a kangaroo trial. Like, we bring him back to the U.S., and Maduro's like, well, these are my rights now. I'm going to hire the best lawyer in the world. Good luck. And it's like, what the hell? It's this weird... I guess it's kind of always been like this in America, because, like, in the 1920s and 30s, if you were an Irish cop in New York, you could just, like, kill black guys, basically. You could just, like, oi, I'm white. And then you'd, like, truncheon a black guy to death, and everyone would be like, oh. But then they couldn't get Al Capone. You know what I mean? Like, there's this weird inconsistency where there's this line, and below the line, infinite criminality is permitted. You can break any rule. And then above that line, everyone's hands are tied. They're like, oh shit, well, yeah, we can, like, break the law and violate people's rights and kill extrajudicially or whatever, but Al Capone, we can't just arrest Al Capone, even though we all know he's the guy. You know, you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. Yeah, we can do a regime change, but we can't just, you know, throw Maduro in a hole. Obviously, we have to let him get the best lawyer. Hoover could nab random leftists, but couldn't nab mob bosses. Yeah, truly. I mean, I guess the recurring lesson here is just, like, money talks. I don't know. If you're powerful enough, like, the government has to take you seriously, no matter how much they don't want to. But they can't. But even in cases where it's not about money, like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, right? Like, the government has been losing in their battle to his life up. They deport him illegally. They send him to CSOT, whatever, Kekot. They say you're never going to see him again. You're never going to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And then Senator Van Hollen goes down and sees him, and there's enough public pressure that the government actually brings him back into the U.S. Then they hold a press conference saying they're bringing charges against him. Immediately, it's like, oh, here we go. We're going to deport you again for all these crimes. They failed to deport him to, like, 3 foreign countries he's never been to. And now it looks like his case is going to be thrown out because of prejudiced, prejudice on the part of the DOJ. So it's like, does the government have infinite power or not? Everything is grinding to a halt. Yeah, they try to send his ass to Eswatini. High chance Luigi will get a mistrial. That's not even a joke. Does that you all understand what I'm saying here, right? You understand the point of what I'm trying to, like, this incredible inconsistency in how exactly the government can break the rules. Trump can flagrantly break, like, the rules of the Constitution over and over. He might run for a 3rd term. Who knows, right? At this point, he just did a regime change, you know? But Maduro gets his goddamn phone call. Very weird stuff. Very, very weird.
The breaking news as you're watching this helicopter make its way from Brooklyn to Lower Manhattan. Take a look at this. That is the now deposed, ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores aboard that helicopter, heading to that heliport. This is the kind of caravan process movement that we've been watching since really just right at the top of the show for the last 30 minutes then, as the leader and his wife are making their way to a federal courthouse in Manhattan to face a federal judge for the first time since the U.S. military operation that occurred in the early hours of Saturday morning in Caracas, that then captured, detained, arrested, and now it has indicted the former Venezuelan
Everyone's super bored and not willing to take real risks. I think that's also one of the reasons I think this is so amusing. It's because Maduro is a person from a world where you did actually have to take risks, right? Like, Trump and everyone around him, as much as they fantasize about being warriors for the Fourth Reich, are massive pussies who would bail out on this project if they thought there was any threat to their well-being. Like, all of them have one foot in the door. But from on Maduro's side, like, Maduro, along with the people around him, always were risking it all to get what they got.
leader and his wife, Celia Flores. Let's keep an eye on this.
More Constitution.
As this helicopter is going to land, and then we will be seeing, obviously, we would assume that we will then see the former leader and his wife leaving this helicopter and then continuing to make their way to the federal courthouse, where we have people staked out all along the way.
Maduro has street smarts at least more than Assad. Oh, Assad has always been a massive failure. The only reason Assad Jr., I should say, the only reason Assad Jr. was able to hold Syria together for as long as he did was because of Russia. That's it. That's the reason why things fell apart like that quickly as soon as they did. He had as much legitimate control over Syria as like the ANA did over Afghanistan. Just like that. Pathetic, really. Al-Jilani seems to be much more competent, though I don't know if it's going to save him.
This. We're now seeing Nicolas Maduro departing, coming out of that helicopter. We're going to see his wife probably depart right after that. He's going to be now getting into, we assume, we'll be getting into another vehicle and heading to the courthouse. Just remarkable to see this. It was just until the early morning hours of Saturday that this man and his wife were running a country of more than 30 million people. And then that dramatic and violent...
Why can't Trump give all Americans Carhartt? The thing that pisses me off about the Carhartt love is like, guys, the reason you all like Carhartt is because you're not used to wearing real heavy cotton fabrics. That's it. Jeans used to feel like this, and now they don't because they're all made out of spandex or whatever. Like the cool, like authentic feel you get for Carhartt, the fact that it takes a while to break in, you're literally just wearing clothes the way they were made for like 200 years, basically. That's just how it all was. Like, that's just how durable clothing was built. Like, all clothing could be more like this if you wanted it to be. 200? Well, you go back far enough, and like heavy-duty workwear wasn't really a thing. Not in the same way it is today.
U.S. military operation taking place that has now captured them and now making their way with their hands bound in those tan jumpsuits to be facing a federal judge. Let's go to that federal courthouse where Maduro is going to be heading right now. Omar Jimenez is standing by watching this along with us. Omar, it's a pretty remarkable...
They were like, hold on, we're getting mogs. Get that 6'5" soldier. I don't know what branch this is. Bring Jose over here, okay? We need one guy who's taller than him.
Thing to see as he's making his way towards where you are right now.
DEA? Okay, DEA. Oh yeah, I see the jacket.
Yeah, and the preparations for this have really been noticeable.
Now I clearly see that it's DEA, and I feel a bit silly for saying I didn't know. But this was in the future, and that was in the past, okay?
On the ground here, obviously there's always a stepped up federal security presence to begin with outside this federal courthouse. But here you have barricades up. You actually have
his wife.
A long line stretching outside
jumpsuit.
the entrance of the courthouse, waiting to go in once those doors actually open. And as you see some of those images, I mean, you see Nicolas Maduro. You and I talked about it.
What's his wife charged with? His wife was complicit in a lot of the stuff the regime did. My understanding, like his wife wasn't just like a trophy wife who would sit by his throne and suck his dick or whatever. I'm pretty sure that she was actually a decision maker in some capacity, though obviously not to the same extent. Not to say it's legitimate seizure, but
just how quickly things change, where now he is literally being flanked by DEA agents in a tan suit alongside his wife, walked down a very visible path from this heliport in the southern part of Manhattan here. From there, we're expecting, obviously, there'll be vehicles making their way to this federal courthouse where...
I don't really see the relationship apart from the fact that they're both wealthy. Does Maduro even have any, like, pedophilia accusations against him? Most dictators are pedophiles, right? For the same reason that most billionaires are pedophiles. Is there anything on Maduro on that one? Because if so, I haven't heard of it. It wouldn't surprise me.
We expect that hearing to happen a little bit later this morning, but also to critically begin this legal process that the Trump administration has in part used as justification for the abduction and capture of Maduro, to have him face these drug trafficking and weapons charges that they say has contributed to, as they allege, hundreds of tons of importation of cocaine and things of that nature. And so, just to see how this has developed
He's
so
a wife
quickly
guy.
over the last...
Isn't that a big Latin thing? Am I stereotyping? I've always kind of figured. I mean, I think there's some truth to this just in like current polling, but like Latin America is a pretty feminist and LGBT plus positive place, I think, like relative to the level of socioeconomic development in those countries. Like Mexico is super gay and trans friendly, right? Like more so than America. Brazil as well. And I think there's a lot of that, like not everywhere, like not in the pits of Central America or whatever, maybe, but I think there is a lot of that. I don't know. Whenever I think of like, when I think Latin American dictator, I think girl boss wife. Maybe that's not founded by anything. Like if I thought Middle Eastern dictator, I do not think girl boss wife. If I think African dictator, I do not think girl boss wife. If I think Southeast Asian dictator, I do not think girl boss wife. But if I think Latin American dictator, I don't know. Maybe like maybe girl boss wife. The only country where being gay is illegal in South America is Guyana. Really? Just Guyana? And that's got to just be on paper, right? Because Guyana is not. I'm pretty sure you could like be gay in Guyana and be fine. I wish that was true, but if I recall correctly, Brazil is the country that kills the most trans people. Okay, fair, but like, is it possible that Brazil just, that number is influenced by the fact that there are tons of trans people in Brazil, and also the government keeps track of that? Because I bet you the number of trans people killed in like South Sudan is 0 every year, if you know what I mean, right? I don't know.
Few days. And, you know, I heard you all talking about sort of the mode of transportation and sort of taking the helicopter over the water as opposed to taking the bridge. You know, that was something that we actually noticed Saturday night as well, where...
Yeah, there's no denying that the Americas are relatively LGBT friendly here, right? So everything dark blue recognizes gay marriage. Light blue, that's Bolivia, right? Sorry for my ignorance. Civil unions. So what's gray? No data? There can't be no data here in Venezuela. No data? Same-sex intercourse legal, recognize of unions. Oh, okay. No recognition of civil unions, but same-sex intercourse is legal. Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, it's yellow right here. That's Guyana, right? Yeah, that's Guyana. Prison not enforced. So yeah, that's the only place in like Latin America where there's any... Wow, Iran is death crazy. Yeah, oh yeah, they'll kill you in Iran for being gay. I don't think it happens that often though, because it's like it's a chilling effect thing, and it's French. That is true. Guyana is not Latin American. It's South American, but not Latin American. Argentina is more pro-gay than America, according to Pew. I've talked to Argentinians online, and that tracks with my experience. Doesn't Mexico have like an insane number of gay and trans people? Like the percentage of the Mexican population that's LGBT is like 12% or something, some insane number like that. Yeah, Argentina's up there with it's higher than the United States. It's very interesting, very interesting. It's so difficult to boil this down to a simple question. It's like if you ask an American if they support free healthcare for all versus do you support, or it's like, do you support Obamacare versus do you support the Affordable Care Act versus do you support like Medicaid subsidies or whatever? People give you wildly different answers depending on how things are phrased. I'm pretty sure that in a lot of the world, they're homophobic, but also they get silly with it. And if you call what they do gay, they'll get mad at you, but it is. And I don't mean just like men hand-holding or whatever. I mean that like in some countries, if you say like a person who is gay, they think of like a person in a committed homosexual relationship, but a lot of the people who are homophobic towards that have had sex with men or fooled around with guys, and they like it, and they would even defend it, but they don't consider that gay for the same reason that we wouldn't consider it gay, I guess, to like wrestle with the boys or whatever. Like there's a different threshold. What, really? Yeah, I'm oversimplifying it, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is like there's enough of a variety in how people perceive like the boundary for what it means to be gay that you get like cope answers, basically. The distinction there is the traditional passive active dynamic. Yeah. Like there are a bunch of countries where it's much more socially frowned upon to be the bottom than the top. So you will have guys who are like, yeah, I'm straight, but they will men and that'll just be like kind of accepted, or maybe they won't talk about it, but it's like, you know, whatever, they do it. But the gay people are the ones who bottom. You get what I mean? Ancient Greece? No, dude, that happens today. That's like pretty common today. That logic is even present in America, man. Like people absolutely today 100% would argue that it is gayer to get by a guy than to fuck a guy. I would argue that. Everyone thinks that. It's just like whether or not, because, but if you sat me down for a survey and you were like, well, does this count as being gay? Another guy, I'd be like, yeah, probably, you know, but some people would go, Colonization's also led to many of those numbers. Was it the Philippines or Indonesia where before the Spanish colonization, they were a lot more accepting of queer people, including like third gender people or whatever? Remember, there's that one thing that like the trans women and the femboys always post on Twitter where they're like return with a V, and it's like a historical excerpt where they talk about Thailand. No, not Thailand. Is it the Philippines? Okay, well the Philippines is pretty queer friendly now, at least judging by this. So Thailand was never colonized, I don't think. Well, anyway, sorry. This is like not really relevant to Maduro getting arraigned in court.
Traffic would have been much lighter, and when they landed on the western part of Manhattan, rather than just driving, they took the helicopter across the water as well. But again, critically,
okay, last thing. In Turkey, you can serve in the military if you're a top but not a bottom. They get a doctor to inspect whether you're a top or a bottom. Is that real? That sounds like something Turkey would do. And I bet you when the doctor takes the survey, the doctor's like, yeah, my job is to inspect guys' buttholes, and I love it. No, I'm not gay.
For them by ground to arrive here at this courthouse to begin this next stage, Kate.
Absolutely, Omar. We're so thankful that you're there watching it all play out. To track this with us, they're now back into another armored vehicle and will be leaving the heliport shortly, heading out with that caravan, you would assume, headed right to where Omar Jimenez is at that federal courthouse.
Thank you, Kate. Joining us now, CNN political and global affairs commentator Sabrina Singh. Also with us, CNN national security analyst Alex Pleads. I'm going to start with you, Alex. You have gotten some new details about this operation, about the extraction of the former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, as we have been watching these pictures, historic pictures of him heading towards his first appearance.
That's a video.
In a Manhattan court. What have you learned?
So in speaking to CIA and Department of Defense officials over the weekend and then coming into this morning, this was the culmination of months of preparation and training. So it's clear the decision to do this, or at least be prepared for it, was made many months ago. There was a full mock-up facility that was built, very similar to what was done for the bin Laden raid, that was trained on for months by the Army's Delta Force, along with members of the FBI hostage recovery team, who augmented the military because this was a law enforcement operation where they ended up arresting and extracting Maduro. There's some contention.
Killed 80 people, including civilians, but you know.
Over whether it's law enforcement or military, if you listen to members of Congress, but for all intents and purposes, those were the authorities it was executed under. Why that type of thing is important is when you have a mock facility, you use it to train and then to determine the timeline, preparation, how long does it take to get there, how long will you be on the objective, and small details matter. So, for example, the bin Laden raid, when the CIA built the mock-up facility, they used a chain link fence around the perimeter as opposed to like the 18-foot thick walls at the compound. And so when they trained on it, the rotor wash and the helicopter actually escaped during preparation and training. But when they were in Abdabad afterwards and they were flying, that didn't happen when the helos went down. So those types of things are incredibly important for preparation.
Yeah, you're talking about sort of this planning very similar to the intense planning in Abbottabad to try and extract or to eventually kill Osama bin Laden. In this case, they took pains to make sure that Maduro and his wife were kept alive. I do want to go to you, Sabrina, because we've been hearing a lot from the president.
I wonder if keeping Maduro alive was a precondition agreed upon with or insisted upon by the narco generals, you know? Like, I wonder if they said, we'll let you have Maduro, we'll loosen security, we won't fire AA or whatever at your helicopters, you can have him, but he has to live. You can't kill him. That would make sense. It's generally a bad idea to kill the captured opposition leader if you intend on running the place and not just dipping immediately after. You lose a lot of leverage and you lose a lot of perceived legitimacy. Yeah, you really don't want to martyr him. And holy shit, killing Maduro would martyr him so hard, you know? I'm still confused why the generals would be involved and not the VP when the generals immediately ceded power to the VP. Well, keep in mind, I don't know that. That was only a guess of mine. Somebody just posted a link saying the VP looks like she was in on it. But my theory on that would be that they knew the VP was too goody two-shoes, basically, to collude in the abduction of Maduro, but they trust her to run the country well enough, and they wouldn't want, and they could gain, like, favor and power within the government under her as opposed to Maduro. Like, the generals that run the country probably would be reined in a lot more by Maduro than they would be by her, so by allowing her to be president, they basically get more power. But somebody just linked something saying the VP was apparently a CIA source. The U.S. operation to capture Maduro at the weekend and spirit him out of Venezuela left in charge Delcy Rodriguez. Rodriguez, a canny political operator, was envisaged as head of a transitional government in secret talks that her politician brother Jorge led with Washington last year about a post-Maduro future, said two people familiar with the discussions. At the time, the negotiations had involved Maduro safely going into exile. That's interesting. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. What's the source? Well, the yellow background here tells me... isn't the Seraphint? What's the name of the news site that has the yellowed background? Seraphint. This is from the Financial Times. Okay, that it can be trusted, probably. Financial Times. Semaphore. That's what I was thinking. Semaphore. But this is FT. Semaphore is a darker yellow, I'm pretty sure. FT is trustworthy. This is a very interesting bit of information. I don't actually know whether or not this implicates her, though. I would have to think about it. It kind of depends on details we don't have. Okay, keep in mind, never forget this. No matter what America did, like morally, legally, whatever, Maduro is a really bad guy. If the VP was colluding to have him ousted so she could take power, that might actually be a utilitarian, like that might be a good. Even if she thought it was necessary to do this in collaboration with the United States, it's possible she thought that was a worthwhile move to make. It's difficult to overstate how bad Maduro has been for Venezuela. The population of the country has plummeted from people fleeing. It's like a borderline failed state. That being said, just because she was okay with Maduro being forced into safe exile doesn't necessarily mean she'd be okay with the U.S. Extracting him. Those are very different, right? Because in one case, it's just her taking the reins after Maduro's forced out by presumably popular will, versus the U.S. just directly imposing their power. So it seems complicated. If the generals were on board, why would they need America? This one's easy. Because they think that getting rid of Maduro and doing so in a way that America is happy with would take American pressure off Maduro and lessen sanctions. Keep in mind, Venezuela is economically because of America. It's if they thought they could oust Maduro in a way that would appease America to the point that those sanctions would be lifted, that would probably make them happy. That being said, it doesn't seem like sanctions are getting lifted, so
in the last 24 hours about what his plans are for Venezuela as we watch these historic pictures of the former president of Venezuela being taken into U.S. custody, taken to court on a myriad of charges. And the president has said that the United States will run Venezuela. He's been asked that over and over, and his answer has been consistent. So what would it take for the United States to actually run Venezuela when you consider all the complications going on?
I hear. Sorry, I just want to reiterate, potential reasons why the VP, Rodriguez, would want to oust Maduro. Look at this, man. The population graph for Venezuela. Under Maduro's rule, so many people have left that it's not only flatlined but dropped the country's population graph. That's really bad. Really, really bad. So, this is why we have a fair amount of Venezuelans in the country, by the way. It's the reason why they've been singled out by Trump. It used to be just Mexicans, but Mexico isn't that poor of a country anymore. Not most of it, at least. Venezuela is. So they've been disproportionately represented in the refugees and so on. It's probably worse than that. Yeah, maybe.
On there right now.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think to put things in perspective, Venezuela is about twice the size of California or even Iraq. So to run a country with 30 million people, and Donald Trump says that we are running Venezuela, I think there are a lot of outstanding questions. And I hope that members of Congress on both sides of the aisle are pressing this administration for more details, because if we are, quote, running Venezuela, that is going to entail putting some type of military assets on the ground. And you heard,
I still don't think we are. I still think that Trump is was lying when he says we're running Venezuela. I think that was what why am I blanking? Come on, Secretary of State. Rubio, yeah. I think that's what Rubio's told him in an effort to appeal to him. I think this is all Rubio's plan. I do not think we actually directly control Venezuela. I just think that Trump would want to believe that we are.
Yesterday, President Trump saying that we're going to extract the wealth from Venezuela from the oil fields.
I do think we're going to try to do that.
Companies are going to go into Venezuela and start extracting oil. These oil fields are also going to have to be secured. So again, I have so many questions on what it means that we're running Venezuela, what that means for our military buildup outside the coast of Venezuela. That's obviously putting incredible strain on our military force and frankly, our readiness. But I think also to the larger point that the president was making on Air Force One yesterday, it seems like we're not stopping at Venezuela. It seems like, he has his sights potentially set on Colombia, Cuba, and of course, we've obviously heard about Greenland. So I think the question, members of Congress and frankly, the president's base also need to be asking is, how does this fit into the America First agenda that he ran on, in the 2024 election? Because we are now getting into the business of nation building, something that the president was, pretty much against for the entire election season. So
it doesn't matter. They're just entertained by the keys jangling. But again, like it's not even going to enrich us, man. Look at this snippet from an article. From what article? If I was good at my job, I would know. But people in the oil industry said the administration's message has left them still leery about the difficulty of rebuilding decayed oil fields in a country where it's not even clear who will lead the country for the foreseeable future. They're saying, you gotta go in if you want to play and get reimbursed, said one industry official familiar with the conversations. The offer's been on the table for the last 10 days, the person said. But the infrastructure currently there is so dilapidated, no one at these companies can adequately assess what's needed to make it operable. Remember, these oil companies were informed about the regime change before Congress was. They were the only ones briefed outside the Trump administration. And still, they're like, Remember how I've been saying for a while now that the main problem with our economy is that it's easier to make money through financial games than it is to actually make anything? Why would you ever want to risk billions of dollars building and then securing oil extraction in an unstable country? We're tens of billions doing this. Massive risk. When you could make much more money just borrowing money than investing it, especially when we all know the interest rates are going to go down. Borrowing money is going to get even cheaper in the future. Pretty soon, Jeremy Powell's going to be out, and Trump's going to put some in charge of the Fed, who's going to drop the interest rates to negative 0.025% or whatever. Why build anything? It's from Politico? Gotcha. How bad would 0% rates be? Apocalyptic. 32 of 80 fatalities on Venezuelan side were Cuban security detail for Maduro. If it was an inside job, the Cubans couldn't be turned and were eliminated by American special forces. Do you think they were killed by Maduro's security? 32 Cubans killed with no American casualties? This sounds to me like Venezuelans turned on them. That might have been part of the extraction deal. We made a deal with the generals. The generals were like, yeah, we can't convince the Cubans to side with this, so we're just going to kill them like while you're on your way in. The only people able to investigate these deaths are the Venezuelan government, i.e. the people who would have made that deal. So it is very possible they just turned on them. It's not like the Venezuelan generals give a fuck about Cuba, Poor guys. The only reason we did this regime change is because we want regime change in Cuba. Not the only reason, but it's a big part of it. But man, if that's true though, if that's true that like no deal could be reached with the Cubans and they had to be killed in order to make this move, that really reinforces the idea that it would be difficult to do this in Cuba. Average Venezuelan bodyguard, I was given, 10 pesos by the general who gives me orders to look the other way today. Oh, I hear shooting. I'm going to go use the bathroom for 20 minutes or whatever. Average Cuban bodyguard, looks up from a little Red Book reading sesh to see American Special Forces storming the city. Immediately, rips shirt apart to reveal bandolier, but gets shot in the back of the head by narco terrorist behind him. I don't know. I saw a tweet saying one of the Cubans was a Wagner mercenary. They might not all be innocent. I didn't say they were innocent, man. They were bodyguards for Maduro. They were probably killing and raping people. You gotta focus on the words I say and not the words that I don't, okay? If I meant innocent, I would say innocent. Narco terrorist isn't even a real term. Well, it goes hard though. It does sound cool.
I have a lot of outstanding questions on what it means for Venezuela, but also the Western Hemisphere more broadly.
Yeah, and again, I just want to mention the pictures we've been watching as the former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is being taken to a court in Manhattan for his first appearance alongside his wife, Celia Flores. Alex, from your standpoint, you talked about the intricacies that you've just brought us new details about the intricacies of how they were able to extract both Maduro and his wife. And now you're hearing the president again reiterate that they are talking about running the country. From a national security standpoint, what position does this put the United States in right now?
It's still a little bit of an uncertain one. I mean,
what does
we can
Rubio
sort of
want to do with
derive
Cuba?
a little bit more detail from some of the actions that speak to things that were unsaid by the president for what the future looks like. As Sabrina just mentioned, you know, the military footprint, what does that mean for the military running the country, et cetera. So first part, for running the country, what we've heard over the last couple of days was the president was asked about the opposition leader Machado, could she take over? And he said, look, she doesn't have the credibility inside the country, et cetera. And he also followed up with, well, Venezuela has a vice president. Very quickly thereafter, within hours, the Venezuelan vice president
I really wish the Cuban government didn't suck. It would make it so much easier, not only to defend them, but also for them to defend themselves from what's coming.
Out and said, look, we're not in support of this. You need to return Maduro. We'll defend the country, which didn't exactly make it sound like there was some sort of coordination ahead of time, which meant, okay, so what was the plan afterwards? It seems that the U.S. very clearly had no intention of going in. There was a third of the U.S. deployed Navy off the coast. Only 2,000 Marines, though, in a Marine Expeditionary Unit. That's an insufficient force to take and hold Caracas, let alone the whole country. So it seemed it was...
You're kind of doing American imperialist talking points here. Okay, what did I say that is American imperialist? Oh, because I said the term narco-terrorist has aura? Really? That's the position you're taking? Goes hard? That's the...
Targeted strikes, take out the air defense sites, insert the force, which, by the way, they made look easy, but several members were shot and the helicopters took a lot of fire coming in. It was actually pretty remarkable that they made it out okay and no one was killed. So at that point, it was up to whoever was going to step up to the microphone and say they were going to lead, and then the president was going to deal with what was left. So it was a quick change in tone last night where the vice president said, okay, we're willing to work with the U.S. on an agenda, which could be a potential off-ramp for additional military action. But if they don't cooperate, the president's made it clear, CIA and DOD officials made it clear to me, there is definitely a second wave planned, and if Venezuelan officials do not cooperate, that is on the table for the president.
Yeah, well, good luck to them. Anyway, yeah, Maduro pled not guilty. We'll see how his trial goes. The fact that he's represented by the guy who got Assange out is a pretty good sign. To be clear, like, as evil as Maduro is, I want him to win this case for reasons that should be pretty obvious. Like, this is an illegal kidnapping. I think that America is the great Satan. We are the source of all evil on Earth. We are the root of it, and we need to be defeated at all costs. So, you know, any victory on that front is a victory for the American people and for the people of the world. If he wins the case, though, what the fuck will happen then? They deliver Maduro back? I guess so. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? The UN had an Emergency Security Council meeting.
Mr. President, thank you for chairing. And I particularly want to thank you,
suit sleeves are too tight,
Mr. Freitas, for your briefing. And I'll point out that Mr. Freitas is in exile, having fled the regime. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for shedding a light on the true atrocities of the illegitimate Maduro regime. This past weekend, colleagues, the United States successfully carried out a surgical law enforcement operation facilitated by the U.S. military against two indicted fugitives of American justice, narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores. Colleagues, Nicolas Maduro is responsible for attacks on the people of the United States, for destabilizing the Western Hemisphere, and illegitimately repressing the people of Venezuela. As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This,
contrary to the direct and repeated statements of the President of the United States, right?
Was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years. A similar action was taken in 1989 against Manuel Noriega. He was arrested, indicted, convicted in a court of law served.
This is boring as shit. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I expected to get anything more from the American UN brief. Obviously, it's just going to be a repeat, though he doesn't even want to own the president's statements on this, you know? There was an attempt.
This is not just in a foreign issue, it's our tax dollars that are also being used to commit these war crimes. It is also the duty of us, the people, to stand against the Trump regime, the Trump administration that are committing crimes both here in the U.S. and against people in Venezuela.
Now, in the background of this interview, you could see that police car. And now right here, we're showing you video we have. Immediately after the interview finished, Plickta was arrested by 2 Grand Rapids police officers. You can see it in the video. And an officer tells Plickta that she is being arrested for obstructing a roadway and failure to obey a lawful command from a police officer. You can see as she's taken away in that car, she was issuing a number of messages about wanting the U.S. to free Maduro. But again, she was taken away by police officers there, and you can see in this video, officers were closely following this procession in downtown Grand Rapids. We have reached out to GRPD for more information about the arrest, but we have not heard back so far.
I'm surprised they did this on camera, knowing how bad it makes them look.
Crimes both here in the U.S. and against people in Venezuela.
Of this interview, you could see that police car. And now right here, we're showing you video we have. Immediately after the interview finished, Plickta was arrested by
This is so embarrassing, man. Imagine being like a Grand Rapids police officer and you're putting your department potentially under fire or criticism to defend Trump from criticism over something he did in Venezuela. This isn't your game, man. You're literally a beat cop in Grand Rapids, Michigan. What are you, like, you're not a Secret Service agent. You're not a federal agent. This isn't your, like, stay the f out. What are you doing, you know?
2 Grand Rapids police officers. You can see it in the video. And an officer tells Plickta that she is being arrested for obstructing a roadway and failure to obey a lawful command from a police officer. You can see as she's taken away in that car, she was issuing a number of messages about wanting the U.S. to free Maduro. But again, she was taken away by police officers there, and you can see in this video.
Yeah, so embarrassing to do this without being asked to. The Second Amendment is not going to stop you from this, Invich. That's the don't buy into the chud propaganda. The idea that like owning firearms is going to stop the creeping decay of our civil rights, you know? Owning firearms is for hunting and for getting back at your ex. It's not for the Marxist dream of like a proletariat uprising because everyone owns a front-loading rifle is not applicable in the modern day. I just don't like the idea the Nazi degens are the only ones with guns. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm fine with. I advocate for gun ownership. It's just literally not going to do anything with like police brutality. It's not going to fix that problem. It does nothing. I mean, if you want to own guns in case the country's civil society collapses entirely and everything turns into a Mad Max situation, then sure. But your 2A shit won't do anything against tanks. It's not about tanks. It's that like individual vigilantism can't do anything to repair a fraying social fabric. Like that's not the problem isn't that the military has bigger guns. It's that there's nothing people with guns could do. Like our civil rights and our labor rights have been getting eroded for half a century, you know, bit by bit. What has the incredible rate of firearm ownership in this country done to address any of it? It's not like it's only conservatives who own guns, you know. This country, if you only look at people left of center, this country still has like the highest gun ownership rate in the world. It just doesn't do anything. Oh, speaking of institutions being complicit with Trump, even though they don't really need to be, the BBC is restricting the language of its own journalists when covering the abduction of Maduro. BBC News editor sent this to their journalists. To ensure clarity and consistency in our reporting, please follow these guidelines in describing the recent events in Venezuela. Captured when referencing what the U.S. did to Maduro. Seized. Avoid using kidnapped. Clarity and consistency. Kidnapped is Trump approved, though? Yeah, Trump said kidnapping's not a bad word. Compliance in advance. Yeah, stuff like this really does make me think that Europe would just fold if we took Greenland. We wouldn't even, like, attack it. We would just send people over there and say, this is ours now. And then, like, what are they going to do?